59 minutes, 42 seconds. That was good. That was a lot of content there. Yeah. We are just getting started.
Let's talk about.
Should we play the funeral music?
No, we don't want to get. We lost. No. Let's just talk about Chandra right off the fucking bat. Okay. People who are unaware, if United States or anywhere else, like we have a leadership that's going on right now. Whoever is going to be elected the Liberal leader of Canada, it's going to be the Prime Minister temporarily until the next election. One guy submitted his name, provided all the necessary information he had to. He got the minimum amount of signatures, $450,000 Canadian. He had to pony up in order to be included in the race.
Yeah.
Sure, he doesn't speak French. His English may not be the strongest. But if you look at just what he is in terms of, he's a Liberal MP. He's been there for a decade, give or take, as an elected official. How is this individual good enough to be a member of Parliament, to represent his constituents, to fly under the Liberal banner, but yet he's not good enough to run for leadership? I don't know. NFL games are rigged. Is the same thing happening here? Right? Like, why take him out? It doesn't make sense. Trending on Twitter, a lot of people were using him as a meme vote, whatever. It doesn't matter. The rules were put in place. People were abiding by the rules.
Totally.
They're signing up, doing whatever they want. This guy ran. Why can't he run? It's fucking bullshit.
Why. You know why.
I know why. But it's still, it makes me fume when an individual has every right to run, but is not given the opportunity to run. It's an injustice. It's bullshit. And unfortunately, it's not going to be reversed. It's going to be, this is a club, and if they want to kick him out, they can, but it just shows their cards on what they're trying to do here. In the past, we've had other big players that we thought were going to win. They ended up not winning. In 2006, 2007, when the Liberals ran a leadership, 2007, I think it was, Stéphane Dion was not supposed to win that one. He did. He was made kingmaker by who the heck was it? Gerald, I forget his name. Gerald Kennedy. That's it. Ignatieff was supposed to win that one, but he didn't. It was Stéphane Dion. And Ontario, if you remember, Sandra Pupatello, if you remember that name, she was supposed to win, but it was Kathleen Wynne ended up winning that. So sometimes you have the odds-on favorite. For whatever reason, they don't win the nomination. So in this case, I'm looking at Carney being the guy they're saying he's going to win. I think this is going to rub people the wrong way, this latest move, and it may just backfire in terms of Carney's campaign. He may not become the leader of the Liberal Party. Fucking pathetic that they're doing this. This guy, Chandra Arya, he deserved every right to run.
Yeah.
To take him out, and without giving an official reason.
But we know why. We know why.
I could read. I think the official reason is going to be that they want him to speak French.
Carney, I think that's what they're. Carney speaks French like I speak French.
His French is far better than Chandra's. Also, Chandra in public and on. I guess it was CBC. Whatever.
He said he couldn't speak French. He said he couldn't.
And he said it's not a big deal. He says they got it. Basically, I don't want to say he gave a middle finger, but it kind of like in a way. So because of that, they could use that as the excuse. He can't run. But every other thing he met, the signatures, the minimum signatures, he paid. Fuck, he's a fucking Liberal MP. If he can run as an MP, why can't he run as leader? It's not like me just coming off the street and they can say you're an outsider. You have no right. Okay, I could get that. But he's not. He's one of them, right? He's part of that team. He's been part of it for a decade. It's not like he's even a newcomer to that team. They vetted him, and I'm willing to bet he even has secret clearance, given the fact they're talking about.
Sure, he does.
So he does. Yeah. I don't think there's anything in his background that I'm just assuming here. I have nothing to prove this, but just my assumption. There's nothing in his background because he must have gotten secret clearance. So, what's the reason, man? I don't know.
They want to install Carney. The Liberal Party is crooked and deceitful, and this is obvious now to anyone with half a brain. Carney is such a weak candidate that they had to get rid of this guy because of the groundswell support he was getting. I will admit that the support he was getting was not in good faith. I see on Twitter huge accounts that were responsible for really upending the liberal narrative during COVID, throwing their support behind this guy. Accounts like Golden Pup, among others, talking about how we got to support this guy. So much so that the liberal website crashed yesterday during this groundswell. That's one thing. Second thing, Len, that guy would have won not only the liberal leadership race, but do you think he would have had a chance of winning the election?
You know, his stance on a lot of things
is pretty right wing. Yeah,
I would say
he's also Indian. Lots of Indians now in this country who would probably vote. You know, like it's hard for me to imagine that guy. Yeah.
He's almost a blue liberal, almost.
You're damn right.
The way he's like, maybe he could come out and say all this stuff. Very much different where the current party has been trending, and I don't know. Is it possible? Who knows? But that, you know what? Another thing I forgot to mention. If they disqualified him from the beginning, if say he filed his paperwork and say the day of or next day, sorry, you can't run, it would suck. But
it's easier to swallow, though. Yeah.
Then have him sit there for 2 weeks, and then the day before it closes, say, sorry, bud.
The day he gets all the support, they toss him.
He did all this work.
Yep.
His hopes were fucking high, and his emotions dangled.
Yeah.
And
as a registered member of the Liberal Party, I'm disappointed that my party has gone. I'm looking forward to throwing my support behind Ruby.
You go to Ruby Della.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to throwing my support behind her.
Interesting.
She has my full support. She's the official candidate of the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast.
No. I can't say that I support her or anybody else. I like Chandra in a way, but he's not there, so I have no. He's your guy.
We got to vote for we have to vote this is the thing, okay? The Liberal Party has learned no lessons from any of this. It's clear to me at this point, right? They've learned no lessons. They have a candidate who is as insider as they come.
But yet he's on the outside.
His autograph is on the $20 bill. Okay, like he's inside. This is inside as they come. He doesn't speak French particularly well. Okay, he has no policy differences from the Trudeau government. He was the economic advisor to the Trudeau government, and now is claiming that he's an economic mastermind and has saved countries. I went through this last week. He was the Bank of England governor. Things got so bad that Brexit passed. Okay. He was the Bank of Canada governor in 2008. He postponed the financial crisis to the tune of, whatever we're in now, this incredible housing bubble, one for the ages, the most expensive housing anywhere that's not Manhattan or the Palisades. And, he's being pushed on not only the party, but the Canadian public vis-a-vis the media as this guy who's, coming to save the day. He comes in at the top all the time, right? This guy doesn't work his way up. He doesn't flip the burger. He just becomes the key holder right away. That's what this guy's about. The votes for Arya Chandra, is that his name? Arya Chandra?
Chandra Arya.
One of the two. The votes for him they're not because people want to see this guy as the prime minister. They are because people want to send a message that the Liberal Party seems to be unwilling to receive, no matter how loud and no matter how in your face and tangible. We are tired of your policy positions. We are tired of the faces of the franchise. We are tired of the same old shit. And so the Liberals, instead, what do? They run Karina Gold, who's my age. Like, she is just so unaccomplished and carried so much water for that administration that it's unbelievable she thinks she can even win, though at least part of me thinks she's more planning for the future. Different story. Freeland, who is as close to Trudeau as they come, and Mark Carney, who's advising Trudeau through all these terrible economic decisions, presumably, and certainly would have taken credit for them if given the opportunity and if things had gone a different way. They don't get the message. Canadians are trying to send a message. And now you got these fake polls coming out where You know,
What
they're
a
fucking
daily.
polling. They went from polling at 0 seats to polling at 39% in Ontario with the CPC polling at fucking
37.
41 or something. Like that. Who's running that poll? Who are they? Are they calling Karina Gold, Mark Carney, Krista Freeland, and
I got a
Mark
text.
Miller? Like, who are they calling?
I got a text. Somebody was asking who I was going to vote for. I never replied.
Oh, you
But
should have.
they're going, no, why? As soon as you reply back, then they keep hammering you with bullshit. But they're out there trying to get information on voters and which way. And how
brutal.
How forthcoming are you going to be with the information, right?
I would tell them right away for sure. I'm actually
Would
considering.
you?
Yeah, I'm actually considering going to like a liberal. I'm actually considering going as a CBP boots on the ground report to a liberal, meetup rally of some kind in my area. There will for sure be one. I live in a big enough area.
Who's the former mayor that's now a liberal MP in there? He was a mayor of Hamilton up until about a decade ago.
Really?
He was. And then he left the mayor to become an MP in Hamilton.
Recent mayors of Hamilton, Fred Eisenberger. You're going to look it up? I don't know who else. Obviously it's Horwath right now. So she was an NDP, MPP.
Yeah, I'm going through the list. It's going to be brutal.
But I don't,
you guys
I don't
had a
know
lot of mayors. Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Bob Bertina, is that it? Yeah.
Bob Bertina was the mayor. That's right. Yeah. God, what a nightmare that was. He was a terrible politician.
Yeah, he went on to be the Liberal member of Parliament for the riding of Hamilton East. Oh, he left in 2021. My bad. I thought he was still there.
No.
So
that was when Horvath took over. Yeah. So there you go. Like I want to go and just ask, dyed in the wool liberals, if someone's giving enough time, if someone's giving time out of their day to go to a rally or go to a campaign event, I want to know, what do you think about Carney? What do you think about the Aria thing? What do you think about all that stuff? Tell me, give me the lowdown. Tell me what you think about all this.
There's a possibility one of two things are going to happen here. Maybe both. It's a possibility. But Aria, I would suspect the Conservative Party are now courting him to jump ship.
For sure.
Given the fact where he stands in terms of his policies, and he's disenfranchised, I think, with the party itself, they could lure him in and say, look, we'll give you a seat, blah, blah, blah. Nothing aside from that. It's just longevity.
Yeah.
So that's one. He could switch. The second, by doing this move too, I could be way off base here, but whatever supporters liberals have had left from the Indian community, they may look at this and say, they're going to do this to one of our own.
Yeah.
And then so they.
How do you feel? How do you feel if you're an Indian today? You have been shunned by the party. Basically, they refuse to support you in terms of your immigration goals. Now, the guy who shares your heritage, for better or worse, I have my own opinions on that. Obviously, maybe considers himself to be someone who Indian Canadians or Indian soon-to-be Canadians or Indian hopeful Canadians can vote for, is trounced by the party with no real rationale, reason, certainly nothing transparent. That's a big chunk of the population. It's almost like in the States, right? Where, in the US, the Democrats imported tons of Hispanics and Latinos and Latinas over the course of, 15 years and hoped that they would be just consistent left-wing voters. And they really started sliding to the right. If that happens in Canada too, and this is the catalyst, man, look at what a mess.
I'm wondering then, could they also go to the NDP party? If you're left leaning, number one, we're former, or you kind of could support the Liberal Party, you don't for whatever reason. Could you look at the NDP and say, maybe I'll support them? I'm just wondering if, I think the first is probably more likely of him switching parties, crossing the floor. The second, it's more just I'm throwing a dart and seeing if it hits anything, but it's possible. And it's a very interesting situation. And one thing of note is you haven't heard anything from Polyev, and I think there's a reason why. He's holding on to this information for when it comes time to a debate. Then he could bring this up. Why bring it up now?
Yeah,
it makes no sense. But he could bring it up then and say inclusion, diversity, all this stuff. And finally, you have a candidate that checks off a lot of these boxes, and you still don't let him run. Why? And it's just an inside. It reminds me, in that respect too, it reminds me what happened with Turner when he took over from Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And then also Justin Trudeau also today was reported as going to be appointing a bunch of senators and stuff like that. And that also reminds me what happened with Pierre Elliott Trudeau when did a transition to John Turner. So history is repeating itself again.
Often rhymes, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Kingston, Ontario. Let's go on to this story here. Kingston, Ontario.
Sure.
I hope anybody in Canada heard of Kingston. It used to be the capital of Canada one time.
Kingston, by the way, to do a little callback to something we were doing the other day, the home of the Frontenacs hockey team.
That came from the past week, right? Yeah, I totally forgot that. We're doing a little more. Anyways, so they're saying there's a food problem going on in Kingston. Kingston is not a small town. It's a decent sized city, right? Like it's big enough. It has an OHL team. It's a stop on the 401. It was a capital of Canada one time.
They have an on route. They have an on route there. I'm pretty sure.
At least one. Yeah. Well, probably one. So recently declared a food insecurity emergency because they say that there's not enough food to go around. 1 in 3, or roughly 1 in 3 households in Kingston are experiencing food shortages or insecurity. People are having difficulties making ends meet despite relying on social assistance. So social assistance programs aren't providing them with enough to maintain their caloric intake. And also of note is they're saying low wages are also contributing to this because it's driving up the cost of living, but also making them unattainable or unaffordable for. So that's another problem with just a Canadian dollar that has been wrecked. All currencies have been wrecked, but wages aren't keeping up with real cost, real inflation. So, man, you see this. I don't think I've ever would even expected something like this, where 1/3 of households in a decent-sized city in Canada would be experiencing this. This is sad, man. Like, it's only going to get worse. It's not next year. It's going to be 1 in 4. It's going to be 1/2, and I don't say next year, but in the not too distant futures, the percentage is just going to continually get worse. And Kingston it's not an isolated city. I think that other cities are having the same type of bullshit. It's going to be reported. We talk about this a lot. It's pretty depressing.
But it's proliferating, right? It's spreading. You see it all over the place now. We expect to see it in big cities first because that's where wage suppression hits the hardest, right? The cost of living goes up because your rent goes up, your mortgage goes up, the cost of homes goes up, all that stuff. But your wages don't keep up. And so you see these stories about food insecurity popping up in places like Toronto, Vancouver, even Hamilton, right? Hamilton's got 700,000 people, something like that. But you don't expect to see it in a place like Kingston, which is, like you said, most famous for its 401 stop. Boomer pointing out in the chat, it's the home of the Tragically Hip too. Great band. I saw them on Canada Day at Downsview Park. I saw them on Canada Day at Downsview Park one time. All-time concert. I've been to a lot of concerts. That's an all-timer. Story for another time. Kingston is a smallish town where presumably there's not a lot of the same pressures you would see in a big city. And now you're starting to see this pop up there, food insecurity. Signpost, buddy. More than anything else, signpost. If you can't move from a bigger town to Kingston for relief on the financial side of your life, where can you move? Where are you going to go? There's not many places lower on the food chain than Kingston where you could still find a reasonable job or be within driving distance to a larger area for work. And so if you can't do that, then what's the plan after? Like, where are you going? What's next on your list? What's the lowest or the next lowest rung on your ladder? I don't know. Is it fucking Keswick? You going to Keswick? You going to, where are you going?
That's not
going to I don't know. What is industry like in the WIC? My guess is not great. I worked in the WIC at a golf course for a summer. A lot of nice people there. Not too many of them very industrious. And so you got to ask yourself, where are these people from Kingston who are in food insecure? Where are they going to go?
Northern Ontario, where things are even cheaper.
But it's worse up there. It's worse.
No, I'm not trying to make light of this. I mean, it sucks, right? It fucking. What's going to happen? We need more programs to support these folks, but who's going to pay for that? We don't have money as it is. We're paying for weapons to be sent to some foreign country that's fighting a war.
Weapons, feminist education in the third world. like all sorts of, again, this is not to say these are worthy or unworthy causes in a perfect world, but we are far from that. And these causes are far from worthy when this is going on at home.
And on top of that, you have the pending threat of tariffs being put on. You saw what Colombia did.
Tariffism. We got some tariffism around here.
Tariffism. And Colombia, they were playing chicken with them, and they flinched pretty damn fast.
That was crazy. What a crazy story.
So what's going to happen when the same thing is threatened for Canada? They're saying it's just around the corner before they implement this. And all you hear from the people that are in charge, oh, we're going to stop sending energy. We have plans in place and blah, blah, blah. Like, really? Like, who do we trade with the most? The United States. We rely heavily on them for a lot of our goods. Food, too. Like, let's be honest. In the wintertime, we can't grow fruits and vegetables. We have to, it's got to be imported from somewhere. Some of it comes from California, Florida, other parts of the world, too. But, right, like, it's just going to get more costly to, like, get shit here. And I don't know. It's just a troubling time. So
the tariff thing, yeah, no, you're right. The tariff thing is interesting. We haven't really talked about it on the show, apart from just sort of headline reading and commentary. But the one thing I've seen over the last week that drives me nuts, and actually I want to talk to Rich Diaz. Rich Diaz is coming on in a week or two, I think, with Keith Dicker. So that'll be a fun show. But before we, go too far down that road, this idea that, and I see like Bruce Arthur and other sort of like politically obsessed midwits talking about how the US needs our oil because Trump was on TV talking about how they don't need our oil. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of how the oil thing works. Okay. I'm not an expert. I'm not a, petroleum technician of any kind, but I know a little bit about this whole light crude, sweet, all this other sort of heavy, the different grades. The reason that the US likes our oil is because we aren't equipped to refine the garbage that the Alberta oil sands have available. And so what do? We ship it to the States for a price that makes sense for them and for us in some regard, because the States is equipped to refine that garbage and then sell it at a premium. On top of that, the States also sells the higher grade stuff that is under their soil at a premium around the world and uses our stuff domestically. Like this is how the oil sort of hourglass, the sand through that hourglass goes. So people talking about the US needs our oil. They're never going to do this. They're never going to. No, they don't. The other thing I'll note is that it's not a question of does the US need our oil or is it convenient to get our oil from us? One is much different than the other. It is convenient for them, but the convenience ends there as far as the relationship with Canada. People talk about lumber this, lumber that. Fine, whatever. Okay, these things don't matter that much. The US doesn't need us the way that we need them. Okay. This is something we have to be very clear about. We are not in a position to play hardball with these guys. We will bend the knee the same way Colombia did. Colombia, for people who don't know, refused 2 planes of illegal immigrants that the U.S. sent back, and the U.S. immediately slapped 25% tariffs on them with the threat of them going to 50% after a week. Colombia bent the knee to the tune of accepting planes and offering military planes and their own presidential plane to the U.S. to help bring more people over faster from the United States. That's the power of the hegemon. And I've said before on this show that the hegemon has been sleeping for a long time and it's awake now. Will it stay awake past the 4 Trump years coming up? I don't know. But these 4 years are going to be hard for countries that have been asleep at the wheel, just coasting on U.S. protection, U.S. trade, U.S. all this stuff. It's not going to be easy for us, the same way it wasn't easy for Colombia over the weekend.
It's also not easy if you're Canada Post, because they have gone to the Canadian government and asked for a loan. And they got $1 billion loan to help continue because they have.
This is the goose meme, Len. The goose meme. Where'd the $1 billion come from? Where did the $1 billion come from?
The future. And significant financial challenges are what they're experiencing at Canada Post. So that's why they had to borrow this $1 billion. So they plan to pay it back. That's why it's called a loan. But who knows if they can? If they're borrowing right now, and $1 billion is, it's a lot of zeros. There are financial difficulties right now, and they're saying that the letter amount of volumes of packages and letters have been steadily going down. And the busy time of year was Christmas. They lost that to a strike. So in terms of recouping whatever they can from last year, like maximizing the amount of revenue, a lot was lost during that strike because it's gone. And then on top of that, the faith people had in the system on Canada Post was somewhat eroded. I'll use myself for example. I had to send out a package 2 weeks ago, and I did so, and I used UPS, FedEx, whatever it was. It wasn't Canada Post. I normally use Canada Post, and even though it might have been a little cheaper, I didn't bother. I said it's not worth it, because I know using the other guys, it's going to work. It's going to get there, and I wasn't going to have to deal with a potential strike. And it doesn't seem like there's one looming, but I just don't want to risk it. So, yeah, another $1 billion sent to these guys.
What's the role? What is Canada Post's role? What should it be going forward? What should we do with Canada Post?
I think the one thing they do provide, the one service they provide, which is good, is they service areas which are probably not going to be
rural areas for sure.
Yeah. And I know that's going to be a money loser in the end. Still, mail has to go in and out of those areas. They have to get something. So if you're living in a remote area, it's rough already as it is there in terms of getting stuff. So you have to, so that's it. I think that's the one role for Canada Post moving forward. Beyond that, I don't know if they should provide blanket coverage for the rest of the country. I don't know. You used to be able to buy Bitcoin from them, but now they're struggling, right? Now you have to borrow $1 billion. Before that, they weren't borrowing $1 billion. Maybe they got to fucking open up the doors again to do that.
I don't know. I don't know what the role of Canada Post should be. Part of me, I agree with you that the rural delivery thing is something Canada Post should be doing, because either Canada Post is going to do it or the government is going to pay a third party to do it, and the cost is going to be more significant. So I think that's fine. The thing I'm curious about, and I think about this sometimes when I go to Shoppers Drug Mart to send something out. Like I sent Ripito his shirt, Canada Post. By the way, delayed. So it's like the memes write themselves. Fine.
You should. He's fucking guy.
So I just went to Shoppers Drug Mart. It's in my neighborhood, so I just went there.
I went for a drive. I could have went to Canada Post.
I learned a lesson learned, Len. Lesson learned for sure. But like this is the thing I think Canada Post should consider. Why can't Canada Post be the assistance hub for people who want to send something somewhere? Why do they have to use Canada Post? Why does Canada Post have to offer parcel service, for example? Why not go to Canada Post and let Canada Post help you send your stuff to, from A to B? If it's the best thing to do with FedEx, do with FedEx. If it's the best thing to do it with, with Purelator, do with Purelator. Canada Post could offer sort of same day or next day local deliveries from those hubs, those Shoppers Drug Mart hubs, or those regional depots. But in terms of these huge sorting centers and the day-to-day mail delivery for places like Hamilton, Toronto, Vancouver, I just think it's not long for this world. And it's not only because it's cost prohibitive, but also because people don't get paper mail that often anymore. A lot of paper mail goes right into the garbage. And I appreciate that there's something about paper mail that's fun and whatnot, but I don't think it's going to last. I mean, who's really the target for paper mail these days? It's really the older generations of Canadians. You're on the clock regardless of how you view this. Even if you think Canada Post is sort of this staple, stalwart Canadian pillar, it's just not going to be around for 40 more years, period. Certainly not in its current iteration. So why not start moving to something else? They've yet to adjust. And this is something you see a lot with crown corporations. They don't adjust. They don't offer a premium service. Liquor stores and beer stores are a great example of this recently here in Ontario. When I come home from football on Saturday nights, I like to have a beer or two while I, hang out, whatever, play places. This is, I guess, before I had a kid, unfortunately. Love my daughter, but, life has changed. I used to come home from football and have a beer or two with my buddies and play on PSN. If my game was at 8 or 7, even I couldn't do it because everything is closed around here at that time. Beer
You
stores
had
and
to
liquor stores.
pre-plan. You had to buy ahead.
But like I don't keep beer in the fridge. I just don't do that. So now if I want to do that, guess what? I can go to a convenience store, and the convenience store will sell me 2 cans of beer until 10 o'clock. And
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is
Saturday, Friday, Sunday, it doesn't matter.
Is there a cutoff for selling booze, or is it 24/7?
The beer store is closed at 7 or 8 on weekends.
Right.
But the convenience store will sell to you till 10 p.m.
Okay, I didn't realize that there was a hard cutoff from convenience stores. Okay.
Yeah, so they'll sell it to you till 10 p.m. And for me, that's great. There's a convenience store not far from my house, so if I need to go there, I'll go there. And like the beer store's up in arms about this, the same way that Canada Post is up in arms about FedEx and UPS. Oh, they're slave drivers, they're this, they're that. Yeah, but they pay their guys well. The mail gets there. There's no complaints. I don't have to deal with the snippy shopper's clerk. They have to adjust. And a lot of crown corporations, and I realize Canada Post, you can say it's arm's length or, pseudo crown, whatever terminology you want to use, but they have to adjust, and they haven't. And things are changing fast in that sphere, especially. So we'll see what they come up with. But this idea they're going to be doing city mail, I think is very, very, it's a tenuous position to hold, that Canada Post needs to be doing door-to-door delivery or even these community box deliveries. They shouldn't need it.
Give it to Amazon. Let them do it.
They do a better job. The Amazon guy shows up in my house. I can order whatever widget I want.
Times a day, depending on what you're ordering.
What do you mean couple times a day? Now they show up overnight. If I order something that's in the warehouse, it's going to be there when I wake up in the morning.
You are living in the right part of Canada to receive this service, because if you're in Quebec, they closed all 7 of their warehouses over there just recently. So I'm not sure you're going to get that same type of level of service in the province of Quebec.
I don't know. I should note that in the chat for people who are on podcasts, there's Boomer and D and MIX or MLX are talking about the holes in my oil cycle description. So go there. Long and short, there's some thinking that Americans actually need our heavy for some products. So maybe I missed that. But,
I have no idea.
I'm doing my best. I'm a mile wide.
They stopped buying from Venezuela. Right.
Yeah.
So and Venezuela has the most oil under their feet, but it's extremely heavy oil. So then if they stop buying it from and they need heavy oil, who else? That's convenient. Canada, right? Pipelines, they have all this shit. So it's able to get it at a decent price without much friction quickly. So maybe they need it. I have no idea.
Even faster and even more friction free if we were the 51st state. But let's not go there. Do you want to do one more story? What else do you want to do?
Let's do the Amazon, like that they closed down their 7 warehouses. 1,700 people in Quebec are going to be losing their jobs. They're saying this is part of a broader cost-cutting strategy that Amazon's employing, because they want to provide what they say better savings to customers. But it could also be to the fact that there was some unionization that was going on over there, and it's one way to get around that, so they don't have to deal with that type or that level of, they could say, headaches for Amazon. So like I said, now if you're ordering stuff, Amazon packages, Amazon stuff from the province of Quebec, how long is it going to take to come in? Is if they close those warehouses, does everything come out from outside the province? Does it come from Nova Scotia? Does it come from New Brunswick, Ontario, or even the States? I don't have a fucking clue. But yeah, there you go. 1,700 jobs lost in Quebec. And this is before tariffs come into play. Now you put tariffs on, who the hell knows?
That's a lot of jobs. It's a lot of jobs. You may remember Amazon doing an advertisement, I think during COVID, that was, I don't want to say geared for a French audience, but the guy they were talking to was a Quebecer. And he was talking about how he went from warehouse worker to shift manager to now he was like doing logistics in an office for them. And it was like this great place to work, and don't believe all the stuff you hear about how it's, this nightmare job. It's actually pretty good, reasonably flexible, blah, 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 benefits and all that stuff. Unions. I got a lot of feelings on unions that I can't share, but there's a time and a place for unions. And I think that time and place has passed broadly. We're no longer working in unsafe conditions in coal mines for the most part, and places where there are potentially unsafe conditions are unionized and are unionized for a good reason. I'm not sure that Amazon needs a union. Amazon also, to your point, ruthlessly efficient. And as long as there's someone to drive that truck and someone to, tape that box or whatever, there's no need for Amazon to worry about Quebec as a distribution center. We've also talked in the past about how Canada, by and large, is too small a population to deal with for a lot of companies. And, Quebec is a very small part of that population. So, you maybe lose, just trying to think like, what are the densest areas there? Quebec City, Montreal. That's pretty much it, how much are you
Hull.
losing? But like, that's not really that, is there a million people in Hull? I doubt it.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So
it's like the other side of Ottawa, right? So,
yeah. So yeah, exactly. The other side of the bridge. Right. What are you losing there if you're Amazon? The headache of the union for sure.
Market penetration. That's one thing. Like they want to have total control of the market, and just say that they own it everywhere. But if they're not making money doing it, it doesn't make sense for them to continually provide services there. I'm not trying to say that.
Are they for sure shuttering the operation or just firing the entire staff?
It's the 7 warehouses are closed. So what that means beyond that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't part with all that real estate and capital and just restart.
Give it back to Sears.
Restart it in a year. Looking forward to seeing Spirit Halloween open up at every Amazon warehouse
of the year.
Another future shop here.
Then it'll be a fireworks store every Canada Day, and I think it just rotates shit like that.
I love it. That's it for tonight. That's all we got. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. 200 episodes is a lot. Me and Len really appreciate all the stuff we've been able to do, and it's only because we get support from all you guys every week. So thank you. Stay tuned for this week, Wednesday, Zach, Bitcoin Denver. Next week, John Rubino. And the week after that, Diaz and Dicker. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves. Don't do anything that we wouldn't do.
In solidarity.